put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. It's 7:22 a.m. and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. I'm Julien Skeete, and in this segment, we are heading into discussions with Pastor Clive Dottin, and he's a pastor at the Seventh-day Adventist, and also, giving us that political perspective, analyzing the situation from time to time, and a general community activist. This morning, we're speaking Keep Crime Off the Front Pages, and certainly to get his perspective this morning should be joining us online. Pastor Clive Dottin, good morning to you.
Good morning, and how are you this morning?
I am doing fine, thank you. And how are you?
Well, I am waiting for this interview when Brother Woods called me and told me, something, you have to come on earlier. I'd say, okay, no problem. I rushed into the bathroom and got myself fixed up one time. Always happy to be here, because you see, I tell you why I'm always happy to be here. There are some stations that are biased against me. They discriminate against me. And I feel the power to be a part of that too. So, I'm happy to share my view, and I always try to be honest.
So definitely, and we know you come ready and prepared no matter the circumstance. And therefore this morning, where we want to head on into, is the very obvious. As we have said, we have been facing the challenge both in Trinidad and quite recently as well in Tobago. I'm not sure if you've had the update just yet, but news coming to hand is that we would have had a shooting in the Black Rock area just last night, within the last few hours. And certainly this is something that continues to plague and to be at the forefront of our news across Trinidad and Tobago, even at a national level. From where you sit, I know you have a number of interventions, both as a pastor and just someone genuinely working within your community, seeking to make a difference. How do you, what's your perspective at this point? Where are we heading as Trinidad and Tobago?
We're heading to hell. That's where we are heading. H for Haiti and H for hell. It appears to me the Ministry of National Security almost in shambles. We are heading to hell in a basket. I'm telling you, jump high, jump low. We are heading straight to hell. We're in a quagmire of corruption and disease. But as you talk about the shooting in Tobago, I want to raise an issue with you coming right out of Tobago involving drugs. Now, earlier this year, 2023, I ain't dealing with 1944, I'm dealing with this year. I was in the Sandy River district at the Sandy River Church. And I made an appeal for those who want to give their hearts to Jesus. A health educator and expert who is also a pastor, Pastor Ian Kirk, had invited me to climax a 6-month period he was having of health and family life education. And if anybody would like to change their lives, and I think that day we had about 7 people who volunteered to have their lives changed and be baptized. I noticed a girl who I had never met before. All right, she was a stranger to me. She had 2 children with her. So after the service, and we had quite a dynamic service. Your boy Dot's not easy. And the church was hot like fire. This girl came to me from Tobago, in Tobago. She said, Pastor, I've been living with a guy for 5 years. I have 2 children for him, and I'm leaving him. I said, what is your reason for leaving? Well, of course, he wasn't married, so that would be a good reason. But in addition to that, she said, Pastor, I want my life to be changed. This guy is a drug dealer. This guy has substantial sums of money left by his parents. She said, Pastor, I lived with him for 5 years. And the last 2 years, he was trying to kill me, and I didn't know. She said some colleague of his tipped her off that the guy was trying to kill her because he felt she knew too much of his business. All right? So that she had to leave. Now, when it comes to the sociology of crime and Tobago, let me tell you a couple of things you may not know. When there is Scott drug report, it is alleged that a number of police officers fingered in that report, the Scott drug report, came to Tobago. All right, that's number one. For the past 15 years, we have heard about the gun trade being exacerbated in Tobago, in certain areas. Egypt, for example. the Black Rock Plymouth issue. And you see, your coastline is very vulnerable, so drugs come in, and you're a high tourist area too. So don't forget that. So I am saying we have some major issues, and I would hope that the leadership in Tobago pays special attention to the drug trade and the gun trade. By the way, once you have the drug trade, you're going to have the gun trade because people need to protect their stuff. I want to point Tobago to what's happening in Blanchisseuse. Blanchisseuse is now a hotspot. All right, don't forget that. And you had the killing of 3 people there, gunman Western style, just recently here. And if Blanchisseuse could be, penetrated, Tobago can also be penetrated. I cried for Tobago. I must tell you, you have a very young political leader in charge of the nation here at the Tobago House of Assembly, and I see all kind of fiery darts and arrows pointed at him. And I would encourage him to be clean and not to be corrupt, and not to follow the example of senior dinosaurs in Trinidad in the political realm, but to keep focused and to keep his faith in God. He's a church officer also, as Brother Fali. All right, because I would be the first to call him out if I'm convinced he's involved in some kind of crookedness. But I'm saying to Tobago, don't ignore the word of God like Trinidad. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sins are reproach any people. Let me come to the Anthony Smith issue, because that is a horrendous issue, Brother Anton and your co-host there. That is a horrendous. They just found him. They just announced that they found him, the human trafficker. Now, when I pick up the newspapers, Sunday newspapers, right, November 5th, what I see here, Judge sends file the counter trafficking unit, right? Judge sends files, all right? Cops were teen victims' clients. All right, this is what I have here. This is what I have here. Cops were teen victims' clients. Well, let me go to the Express. Judge sends evidence to police unit. Look at right here, right? Cops in trafficking scandal. And in summary, what was taking place there is that this guy had this girl, all right? And obviously, from what is being said, she was forced into prostitution by fugitive. Now, this is significant issue. The first paragraph: police officers were among the men who engaged in sexual exploitation of a trafficked 16-year-old girl over several months between 2014 and 2015. Right recently, I had a discussion with an ex-police officer who is now an attorney. And I was amazed what she said. She said the death of Akil Chambers. That boy was homosexually compromised, that child. She said that's a curse upon the nation. And we in Trinidad and Tobago must not think that God is asleep. He may have pajamas, but he's not asleep. And could you imagine, all right, the compromising? You had Sean Luke in times past, a boy who was buggered with a cane stalk. You had this Anna Montuno girl, all right? Everybody's convinced that the state failed her. And then you had the child in Rio Claro, 14 years old, went to point out the alleged rapist. And soon after that, leaving the police station and went home. She and her uncle were shot and killed. You see Trinidad going through. You know what I mean? I'm saying that to you straight. And there's a text in the Bible that says righteousness exalts a nation, but sinners I reproach any people, and I'm not the problem. All right? Ayn Rand says a society is doomed when instead of protecting the just from the corrupt, it protects the corrupt from the just. Now, what I see we doing here is demonizing victims. Well, thank God they found the guy, because he had a bracelet attached to his ankle, I believe, and he got away. How he got away? He had to get help. So that we are corruption saturated in our Twin Islands, but then I hope Tobago never gets to be like Trinidad.
So Pastor Dottin, is it that you're not hopeful that the continued budgetary allocations going towards treating with the issue of national security is going to make a dent or any type of intervention, or is it that we need a kind of multi-sectorial approach, the judiciary involved, the community groups and organizations to engage, our education system? Just very, very, very quickly before we close this morning.
Well, let me tell you what has to happen. We have to have a national effective health education program. There are several strategies to deal with drugs and guns, but what you alluded to is what has to happen. But Trinidad is too blatantly politically divided, racially polarized. All right. So what is going to happen? We have to unite to fight the monster, but the politicians set us a very bad example, and they are to a large extent, apart from myopic religious leaders and business leaders, the elite, all right, who bring in the drugs, if you please, and the guns, all right, with help. I have said every time I have been on television when this issue was raised, behind every corrupt cop is a businessman, a attorney, all right, and a politician, right? I have said that before, and I have said before that a lawless and indisciplined nation cannot fight crime. It appears to me that we have to have, all right, a unity that will not be initiated by the politicians. And we have got to come together because numbers come for the politicians. And if we unite and have a real significant force, I am saying that we should be adopting one family. All right, we should have that thing operational where we adopt one family. We are citizens, whether we Baptist, Hindu, Muslim, Catholic, Presbyterian, Pentecostal, Baha'i, Jehovah Witness. We should have a national adoption program. So it takes a multi-sectoral approach to really deal with it. I think our politicians in parliament have failed. They fail when they decriminalize marijuana. All right, they show themselves as members of the renewed plantation economy. All right, following their bosses away to get a few dollars more. So they failed the country enormously. All of them should go. Are you hearing me? All of them should go. All right, when they pass that decriminalizing of marijuana bill.
All right, Pastor Dottin. So we've heard you, and we agree a multi-sectorial, a multifaceted approach to curb the situation of crime in Trinidad and Tobago. It will take a lot of heavy lifting, heavy moving, but of course, indeed, it has to be done to preserve lives, to preserve our culture, to preserve who we are as people, and to ensure that generations get to enjoy the fruits of our labor. So we thank you so much for your perspective on the situation of crime in Trinidad and Tobago and the approaches you recommend that we take to ensure that this is done. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Pastor Clive Dottin this morning as it relates to crime in Trinidad and Tobago. And so we thank you so much for continuing to stay with us as we bring information to you as it relates to things happening in and around Tobago. At this point in time, we're going to take a short break. But before we go, of course, we invite you to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll